Hello, everyone. Phil Turek here. Just wanted to do a brief update. Today is Friday, May 23rd, 2025. I'm going to be going off on vacation, and I've titled this little short segment Alternate Reality, but that's just because there's so many people who see things so differently from the way I do. All right, here we go. In the future, there will be a vibrant, self-sustaining human civilization on Mars. The high road to Mars is one built on a foundation of gracious professionalism, the bedrock ethos of the first robotics competition. The earthbound dreamers of today, who are working to open the high road to a future Martian civilization, are the ancestors of tomorrow's Martians. I'm Phil Turek, one such ancestral Martian. Look at what I'm trying to do by creating simulated Martian cultural ambassadors to act as positive social influencers to somewhat depolarize society here in the United States. Imagine how much even better it would be if the United States were to bring real Martian ambassadors here. Alternate reality. Mm. First, a couple of just cartoons to to reflect my own viewpoint on things. Here's one, uh, and this comes about from the idea that our current leader views himself as, I really think, a reality TV star who's just trying to maintain high ratings and not really try to be president of the United States. So that forces him to get script ideas, storyline ideas from golf buddies or or from reporter asking questions. Say, oh, okay, there's an idea. Let's do that as our next episode. And it's a daily TV show. Now, the difference between a real president and a reality TV star who's play acting as president is knowing what the oath of office is for the presidency. And our current leader doesn't know that he's taken an oath of office twice now to defend and uphold the Constitution of the United States. So that clearly shows he doesn't think of himself as being an actual president, but just being a TV star. Okay, well, here's another cartoon. uh, so the rule of law has diminished tremendously, and that's kind of what I wanted to talk about today, just a little bit. So I read this article today, and here I'm just copying and pasting the article. This is way more text than you people normally have to encounter on my screen. It's from some website called justsecurity.org, and it points out that the big, beautiful bill that's just passed the House of Representatives last night or early this morning has tucked into it a provision that says, and this part I will read, no court of the United States may use appropriated funds to enforce a contempt citation for failure to comply with an injunction or temporary restraining order if no security was given when the injunction or order was issued pursuant to Federal Rule of Civil Procedure 65C, whether issued prior to, on, or subsequent to the date of enactment of the section. Whew. Okay. So the thing to really follow is, will this provision end up in the final bill that is passed by Congress? If so, you can read the text, the next paragraph of the article, there it is, and it points out that basically the entire judicial branch relies on enforcement of its rulings to be, an equal power stakeholder in our federal government. But this little provision here in the current budget bill would render the judicial branch as nothing more than an advisory uh, group. So a judge could say, well, that's not constitutional, but would have no power to enforce it. And okay, so read this. And here's a little further down the same article. And the point is this, because it talks about past as well as, so it's retroactive. This goes back hundreds and hundreds of judicial rulings over the years, and they're all now rendered unenforceable because the plaintiff didn't uh, set a bond or post a bond before making the ruling. So, yikes. Um, and it's clearly slipped in there by the MAGA group to get around this pesky judicial constraining of our current leader. So our current leader has all these things he wants to do. Like today, he just cut off Harvard University from access to a government uh, data set that is necessary for their international students to be in compliance. So it's just part of an escalation that he's doing. And there's a number of, quite a number of executive orders and actions by the cabinet which have technically been violating the Constitution already. And the judges have been ruling about it. But what this little provision would do is make those rulings unenforceable. So a judge could say, and the Supreme Court could say, well, what you're doing is unconstitutional. But the executive branch could just say, oh, well, you know, and that's the effect of this one little provision. So, wow, uh, that's about all I wanted to share for today. I'm looking at my other notes. I see I wrote down that a meeting of the crime bosses, the top 220 crime bosses of the world, took place last night, where our leader claimed, "Oh, I wasn't there in official capacity as president. I was there in my personal time," which is interesting because we don't usually regard the president as having an on-off switch for being president of the United States without formally having the vice president take over as acting president of the United States. I'm pretty sure he did not do that. So, uh, interesting. But you paid to attend this private dinner with our leader, and uh, the list of who went isn't disclosed, and it's to the highest bidders throughout the world. So the top dictators around the world and crime bosses around the world could have been, probably were at that dinner last night, or the representatives, and the public has there's no accountability for it to the public. Interesting and true. Okay, that ends it. I'm going off on vacation, a little less than 2 weeks, but it'll be a couple of weeks probably before I do any additional postings. And for those of you who are building a viable, successful, thriving civilization on Mars, what's going on currently in the United States is just sad. Uh, there's a pastor who gave a service in the Pentagon, and quoting the guy, he was um, praising our leader for his, what do you call it? Stability and moral clarity. Mm. Whereas from my point of view, our current leader is not an embodiment of stability or moral clarity. I think he's quite amoral, in fact, and chaos is his only method of making himself seem indispensable. Okay, so there you have it. Alternate reality. Farewell. Bye.